Hey, welcome back, everybody. People have been asking for the Aichi deck, and I personally don't care for the deck, so I didn't own it. I also didn't want to spend money on the cards, but my buddy Carlos lended it to me so I could show it off to you, and we worked on this deck together. So this is a quick little. This is the main thing you might expect to see at most events. So our starter is the Barkle. We play Wingle in the ride line, and the reason we're on Wingle is you can call out. I should tell you what it does, I guess, huh? You can reveal the Aichi Grade 3 so that you can call out Wingle as a forerunner, kind of like how you can do Barkle, and you can tap this to call a critical trigger out of your deck. So the idea with this, normally you don't want to deck thin like your criticals and stuff like that, but this deck has so much pressure even without triggers, that you're almost okay losing a trigger or two so that you can push your opponent early on and just like kind of rush them so that when you go into your turn 4 or even your turn 3, that like you are swinging for lethal with like Gancelot and Zero. We have the Blaster Blade in the ride deck, so basically this is the Vanguard Rearguard, Counterblast 1, or Energy Blast 3. If you're on an Aichi or you show one from your ride deck, you get to retire one of your opponent's rear guards, and then you get to draw a card if this was on the Vanguard circle. And then when it attacks a grade 3 or greater, it's going to get plus 10 if you're on an Aichi which is really good. And we have Alfred, which for my personal, I'm not a big fan of like Soul Saver as like a character. Like the card in this deck is good, but I don't really care about Soul Saver Dragon at all. So I'm really disappointed that like Alfred's kind of whatever in this deck. Like you really don't want to keep riding into him because I think he's way cooler than Soul Saver. But basically, if you haven't, when you would ride another Aichi icon on top of him, it triggers Persona Ride. Uh, he gets 2k for every one of your rear guards, just like the original one. If you have 3 or more rear guards, he's going to get the drive check. And if you have 4 or more and you Persona Road, he gets a crit, which is really cool. The crit has come up because we do tech in a copy of the Alfred in the main deck, but it doesn't come up super often because you try to kill on Soul Saver. His other ability is when he declares an attack, you counterblast 1, search your deck for 2 Aichi units and call them to a column, and if your opponent's at grade 3, they get plus 5. So it's a 4 attack Vanguard, which is kind of cool. Nothing super crazy about it. Um, Moving on to the big grade 3 portion that this deck plays. Um, we have one more copy of Alfred, 4 copies of Soul Saver Dragon. So Soul Saver is just it's like Vortex Dragon from uh, the Kai icon, but instead of retiring your opponent's front row, it's Counterblast Soul Blast a grade 3 with the Aichi to get the restand effect on swing, but also uh, after you activate that effect, your front row gets plus 5. So right off the rip, like you have to wait for the power on Vortex Dragon, but you get it right away, or you get 5k right away from Soul Saver activating, which is really cool. It's also a 10k shield. It doesn't get any power like Vortex does, which I think is like unfortunate, but I understand because it's kind of a good card. Uh, and we have 1 copy of Twin Cast as our Regalis piece. Twin Cast is a fine choice. You can also use like the Fire Regalis, but I think Twin Cast isn't a bad. My buddy likes Twin Cast a lot, so nothing a lot to say there. We have 4 copies of Gancelot. So Gancelot is when you discard him. You get to shuffle him or bottom deck him. Search your deck for a Blaster Blade, add it to hand, and then you shuffle. Uh, and then he has the ability when he attacks, if you have Blaster Blade and Soul, he's going to get 5k for each of your opponent's Vanguards. And then you can choose to give him a crit. If you choose to give him a crit, you bottom deck him and you either take a Blaster Blade from your Soul or from your drop zone and put it back to your hand. This card's insane. like straight up insane. You can early on just bash your opponent for like if you go first, you can bash your opponent for 23 with a crit, not including the booster. So if you put a cerragon behind him, that's 36 with a crit, like right off the rip, before you make a new column with Alfred. Like it's a really crazy card. It's it's unfortunately like a necessity in the deck, and it is expensive. But as you'll see with the next card, which is 3 copies of the Nebula Knight order, you can tell those aren't exactly actual Nebula Knight orders. So my buddy doesn't want to spend the money on it, but he wanted to try out the deck. So one of the big things I will say uh, with this deck is proxy at your locals or whatever. Don't spend however much this is. Don't spend $120 on this. Just proxy it, especially to see if you like it, right? But I don't think any card is worth that much for its base rarity. At least that's my personal opinion, and that's also his opinion because he has proxies. So, moving on to the rest of the deck. If I could just sneak out the grade 2s. 3 more copies of the Blaster Blade. It's a really good card, and it's also a free card you keep getting back from Gancelot. We're playing 2 copies of this Zero and 2 copies of Galatine because they share the same name. So the important thing about these, so this one gets 5k once you're on grade 3, and so it's a 15k attacker, and it can also end of or when you're attacked, remove it from the drop to be a 10k shield. And then 0 is the perfect guard restrictor, where if it got restood and you persona road, and you have like 4 more rear guards, it gets like 10k and you counterblast for the your opponent not being able to. Sorry, not just perfect guard. They can't use autos, so the only thing they can use is Elementaria Sanctitude. So it's a pretty good card. It also you can either counterblast 1 or energy blast 3 on place to draw a card if you don't have another copy of it on board, which is why we have a little bit why we have the 2-2 split, but also like this card just really is like such a good card. This card does almost nothing once you are going first. Or sorry, when you're not on Persona Ride, like it's just a beater. So we'd rather have the defensive option. And 2 copies of Gordon. So Gordon gets 5k shield as long as you're on an Aichi icon. When he's placed, you can counterblast 1. He gets plus 10, and if you placed him by King of Alfred Aichi-Kan's effect, you draw a card, which it's pretty good. So you can always make it like a really strong column with him, and he also acts as defense, which defense is really nice. And on to the grade 1s for the deck. If I could just sneak them all out. Once again, the thing we talked about proxying. Cerragon's expensive. My buddy just will not pay $30 for a copy of this because he thinks that's ridiculous. I don't blame him entirely. He doesn't bring this deck to events, so it doesn't matter. But Cerragon's a really good card, especially for this deck. Lets you do a lot of deck thinning. 4 copies of Lake Maiden Lien. Lien is really good because it lets you. It's the same thing as Gojo from the Kai Icon deck. So when you discard it, you can call it back to the field, or you can Soul Blast 1 to call it back, and then you draw a card and drop a card. It just lets you like get bored for free, which is really good. But also you have really good discard targets. Like you can discard Gancelot to get a Blaster Blade. You can discard what's it called, the Nebula Knight's order, so that you have it ready for like another turn. Like it's good. It's 100% really good. And 4 perfect guards. He did not want to put Sanctitude in here because he's using it for other decks, but you could change one of these out for a Sanctitude if you really need to. Having it as the Aichi-Kan perfect guard is really important because there was a game where like the game dragged on really long or whatever that we were playing one time, and he Persona rode the Alfred, and if he didn't play the Flash Shield Assaults, he wouldn't have had a grade 1 to call off of this. Not that you need to, but like it hits better numbers. So definitely play those. And the very last bit is the triggers. So we have blue OT, Blue OT is fine. Realistically, whatever OT you like is probably fine. Red OT does pretty good. Um, Yellow OT is really funny because you can just fill up your hand and then kill your opponent's stuff, which is really cool. Uh, and yeah, not a lot to say about that. Red or blue is just the most like bait or the easiest one to play because it was like, oh, I can just recur PGs and stuff like that. Four perfect guards or four perfect guards, four crits, four more crits, three front triggers because you will deck out if you play draws, and of course four heals. He doesn't play the restand ones because he doesn't have them. So, but you can play them if you would like. I think this list though, for the most part, like obviously there's proxies in there, which I don't blame him for, but this is a very standard list, and like the only things that I'd say, like if you need to change them for your competitive season, like you could change out some of the heal triggers. Obviously, you can add the one sanctitude, and you can swap OTs to a OT that you prefer. But I think this is the like most like cookie cutter list that you could play for the Aichi Icon deck. Not that the deck isn't cookie cutter already, but like this is the most standard list you can pretty much play, minus OT, Regalis Piece, and the random perfect guard. So like test out what you think you would like. If you do not like using Twin Cast, if you not like using Blue OT, try out different ones that you think you will like better, and the deck will still perform just fine, I promise you. But that is it for this deck profile. We got more to come, especially because we have a couple things we have to show before the next set drops at the end of the month, I want to say. So that is it for this profile, guys. I hope to catch you soon. Peace.